Hi, this is Kara. Welcome to Breaking Free Fridays, or welcome back if you've been following the series. Today, I was guided to talk about how to change anything. And when you think about change, that is the one thing in life that we can always count on. And yet, it's the thing that most of us find a lot of discomfort in. People really get comfortable with the status quo at times, the familiar, even when the familiar may be unhealthy or even at extremes abusive. We get comfortable with what feels similar, and not only in like interactions, but also at an energetic level, that vibrational pattern that runs. But the fact that change is inevitable is an important thing to keep in mind when we go about wanting to actually move forward in change. Our journey is all about growing and learning and really coming into alignment with our authentic self and our true self. And one of the biggest things that is so powerful around being able to change anything, it comes down to a few simple concepts. And those are making a decision. It's like putting putting that line in the sand. And along with that, it's the commitment. It is committing, and having conviction. So, and the reason I share those three pieces is because sometimes we find ourselves wanting something or dabbling in, a resolution or a goal, or I want to change this, or I know I need to do this, or it could be around, losing weight or exercising more or leaving a toxic relationship. And yet, for some reason, we find ourselves just, continuing, weeks later, months later, and we're still in a similar pattern. And most often, that is because we haven't truly decided and at a level of absolute commitment and conviction that we are done, that we are no longer okay with the status quo. Most people can relate to the concept of a rock bottom in context of substance abuse, or alcoholism. The reality is that when we're exploring our own journeys of transformation and progression, and looking at ways to become more empowered, living more empowered, breaking free. We're talking about breaking free of patterns that hold us back, of things that are unhealthy or dysfunctional in some way, that they don't serve us. And when you look at life through that lens, it's an invitation to transform. And if we don't proactively do it, usually we hit a rock bottom. That is that hard lesson that pushes us over the edge. And at that point, we realize that we are so sick and tired of being sick and tired that we cannot tolerate the status quo anymore. And as a result, the fear of the unknown, that is part of what has been holding us back, even if we've wanted to make a movement, even if we've wanted to do the change, that finally that rock bottom is what allows us to surpass the fear and make the move forward, and realize that we're done. Enough is enough. For me, an example that I can share is, I became so debilitated, physically, in my health. I was so sick, and I couldn't will myself out of bed because I was in such excruciating pain. And as a result, I didn't want to live like that. And and so I was absolutely not okay with that. And at that moment, I had a conviction deep within the soul of my being that just said, this is not acceptable, and I am not settling for this. And it meant a pretty long journey, and not giving up and persevering even when medical doctors were saying, we don't know what to do, we can't help you, you're gonna have to learn to live with this. And I just wouldn't give up. I just kept persevering, and I'm really healthy and feel more whole and vibrant than I did, decades ago, as a result of going through that path and making that conviction. And I was talking about another example with my sister's experience. She had been wanting to leave a job for quite some time, and just kept finding herself, continuing to be there, and tolerating things that weren't great, when she'd think about leaving, she would feel sick to her stomach, and she'd think about leaving, she would feel sick to her stomach. And yet she knew that was the direction that was important for her, that would be healthier for her. And then things progressed into a more, toxic kind of environment and setting. And she didn't feel sick anymore. And it was like there was just that settling inside, that internal compass that was solid in giving the direction about, yeah, this is time. This is the point. This is the place where I can be convicted in moving forward and doing something different. And she had been at this job for a really long time. So it was a big change. It was a big leap. And sometimes we just require those really hard lessons and those wake-up calls to just move forward and move through that fear. Now, keep in mind, the more we do this inner work over time, that persistence in the inner work and the strength and the resilience that we gain and the new skills that we develop, the greater capacity that we have in our nervous systems, we get to a point where it's more of this proactive dance with life, and we don't hit those rock bottoms anymore, because we're operating in a different level. We're viewing things from different perspectives, and so life becomes easier in that flow. But I do think it's important to also remember, and I think back on my early days of my self-development journey, and I wish somebody had told me this, so I'm going to share it with you. When you jump into these realms of awakening and healing and self-development, spiritual awakening, oftentimes those initial points of transformation, they come with challenge. They're hard, and we're facing things that we were kind of avoiding or blinded to, and they can be hard truths. They're awakenings that are like big ahas, and it can open the doorway to experience feelings that we haven't been feeling. We've maybe been shoving those feelings down for a really long time, and we might not be experienced with or comfortable with that emotional processing and that release. And we're also in a point where we're learning new skills. We're incorporating new practices, new lifestyle rituals and components that support choosing ourselves. And remember that, like, a big piece of the key in changing anything is choosing ourselves. So often we are living life for others, and we don't even sometimes realize that. Remember, I know this sounds trite, but it's so true. We only know what we know when we know it. and sometimes these light bulbs go off, and we have these moments of, gosh, how did I not see that before? But we see things that we need to see at the time that we are supposed to see them. And when we are ready for that next leveling up of alignment to our true self, to our authentic self. So going back to my point about the empowerment and transformation journey and healing, having the rubs of challenge and difficulty. Here's the thing. It is so worth it, and you are worth it, because the persistence of going through that gets us to another side, a better way of being, a more aligned way of being, a more centered way of being, to a place of greater joy, of greater possibility, of greater abundance, of more alignment with who we are, who our true selves are. And there is so much freedom in that. And when we stay in the status quo, remember, change is inevitable. So even when it seems like we're if we choose the status quo, we're staying in the same, usually that status quo progresses into a spiraling direction that's going negative to wake us up, because our journeys are all about expansion. They're all about becoming our full, whole, true self. Well, we're always that in our core, but it's like reintegrating into that place, recognizing it, remembering, being that authentic alignment. So I'm so excited to hear your thoughts on this, because this is a big one, and I would love to hear what your experience has been in your efforts to change, and how some of what I've shared tonight may resonate with either what you've already experienced, or how you can see yourself moving forward in a more empowered state, and really embracing those opportunities to up level by making that decision and realizing, knowing in your core that when you have that conviction, things open up in ways that you can't possibly imagine. It's like all of a sudden the energy aligns, the universe aligns, God is supporting you, or however that resonates for you, if it's spirit, if it's universe, higher consciousness. But things open up. It's like that little seed gets planted, and all of a sudden you have incited this beautiful garden to be able to grow. So open yourself to the possibilities, and be gentle with yourself in remembering that, some of this is hard. And when you realize that, and you're running up against that, it's an indication that you're in the right direction in many cases, because you're unraveling. It's the shadow coming to the light, so it can transform, so you can transform, so you can realize that next level of empowerment and breaking free. So I honor you in your journey. I hope you have a wonderful week. And if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.